The very stones of Rome seemed to shudder that night, a tempest fit for the gods, or perhaps a warning of the godlike ego about to seize control of an empire. Inside the silent palace, a new ruler paced, restless. Paranoia was already weaving its threads through the corridors, a silent companion to absolute power. This was his first taste of adoration. A toddler, dressed as a legionary, celebrated by Rome's hardened soldiers. They called him Little Boots, a nickname born of affection that would one day be uttered in whispers of fear. These are the fragments of a shattered mind, acts of senseless violence and terror that would soon become the daily rhythm of the Roman world. And here, the moment legend solidified. The emperor, in a brazen act of delusion, forces his horse to parade upon a bridge of ships, conquering not an enemy, but the sea itself, a spectacle of pure, performative madness. He was the heir to the world's greatest empire, a prince shaped by love, by war, and by unspeakable personal tragedy. But the man who emerged was a riddle, wrapped in purple and blood. This is the story of Gaius Caesar, a boy destined for glory who became the monster Caligula. We must journey into the heart of a family dynasty poisoned by ambition and a mind broken by power. His bloodline was a who's who of Roman power. From the calculating Augustus to his own heroic father Germanicus, Caligula was born to rule. But this family tree was watered with betrayal. Marriages were political, children were pawns, and death was often the quickest route to the throne. To understand Caligula's madness, you must first understand the poisonous nest he was born into. His father was everything Rome admired, a general who shared the hardships of his men, with his young son by his side. Here, Caligula was not an insult, but a badge of honor. But in the shadows of the imperial court, trust was a weakness, plots were currency, and the suspicious death of a beloved hero like Germanicus would cast a long, dark shadow over his son's life. With his dying breath, Germanicus accused the Emperor Tiberius of poisoning him. Whether true or not, this belief that his father was murdered by his own family would forever warp Caligula's view of the world. The revenge was swift and brutal. Caligula's mother, Agrippina, a woman of fierce pride, was exiled and beaten to death. His brothers were arrested, dying one by one of starvation and execution. Alone and vulnerable, the teenage Caligula was taken to the isolated island of Capri. Here, under the watchful eye of the paranoid Tiberius, he learned the most vital lesson of his life, the art of survival through deception. On Capri, every cliff path could lead to a fatal accident. Every conversation was a test. Caligula mastered the performance of the harmless, dutiful nephew, burying his true self deep within. He endured the depravities of Tiberius's court, laughing at jokes that sickened him, all while studying the mechanics of tyranny from its most skilled aging practitioner. When Tiberius finally lay dying, the power players moved swiftly. The Praetorian prefect, Macro, had bet on the young heir. The fate of the empire hinged on this moment of transition. In a final grotesque twist, the old emperor seemed to revive. The story goes that Macro himself smothered Tiberius, with Caligula as a witness. His first lesson in supreme power was a murder. Rome greeted him as a savior. The gloomy reign of Tiberius was over, and this handsome, charming son of a hero promised a new golden age. The city was drunk with hope. He acted the part perfectly. He paid the army's bonuses, ended the hated treason trials, showered the people with games and gifts. For 7 months, he was the model emperor. The treasury was opened, festivals were decreed. He was more than an emperor, he was a celebrity. The Senate, the people, the army, all believed they had found their perfect ruler, but the legacy he inherited was a financial ruin. The lavish spending of his first months had emptied a treasury already drained by Tiberius's excesses. The Golden Dawn was about to hit a hard fiscal reality. Then, catastrophe. Struck by a sudden, severe illness described as a burning fever and convulsions, the emperor hovered at the edge of death. The entire empire held its breath. Delirious and in agony, his survival was in doubt. Romans made public sacrifices for his health. In his absence, the machinery of the state began to creak, and rivals started to whisper. When he recovered, the man who rose from that sickbed was fundamentally altered. The affable prince was gone. In his eyes now was a chilling detachment, a new and terrifying unpredictability. The Senate quickly saw the change. His behavior became erratic, marked by cruel jokes and sudden rages. The respect he once showed was replaced by open contempt. He began to see himself not as first among men, but as equal to the gods. He would converse with statues of Jupiter, challenging the king of the gods himself for supremacy. This wasn't mere ego. It was institutionalized delusion. He ordered a temple dedicated to his own worship with a life-sized gold statue dressed in his own clothes, demanding the rituals due to a deity. His cruelty became psychological theater. Forcing a father to dine and laugh while his son was executed downstairs was a power move designed to break not just bodies, but the human spirit itself. He saw the populace not as citizens, but as a source of revenue and amusement. His generosity turned predatory, using gifts and games to identify who to target next for confiscation or death. The state became a criminal enterprise with the emperor as its capo. Treason charges were manufactured to seize wealth. He invented absurd taxes, turning every aspect of life into a revenue stream for his excesses. The Bridge of Boats was the ultimate expression of his narcissism. It served no military or practical purpose. It was a 3-mile-long monument to his belief that he could defy nature, logic, and prophecy itself. His favorite horse, Incitatus, lived better than most senators, housed in a marble stable, dining from an ivory manger. The rumor he would make it a consul was the ultimate insult to the Roman elite. Whether he truly intended to appoint his horse is debated, but the fact the rumor was credible tells you everything about the atmosphere in Rome. The absurd had become the expected. Glimmers of a twisted humanity remained. He adored his infant daughter Drusilla, deifying her as he had himself. In his mind, he was creating a family of gods on earth. Her death shattered him. His grief, however, manifested as tyranny. He imposed public mourning so severe it banned laughter and family meals, forcing his personal despair onto millions. The palace descended into a perpetual orgy of sex and violence. He humiliated the aristocracy by forcing wives into prostitution and treated the gladiatorial games as his personal slaughterhouse. No one was safe, not even in retirement. If Caligula desired a specific entertainment, a retired gladiator could be dragged from his bed to die for the emperor's fleeting amusement. His god complex nearly ignited a world-altering revolt. Ordering his statue placed in the temple in Jerusalem was a direct attack on Jewish monotheism, showcasing his utter disregard for any power but his own. The conspiracy formed in whispers. Senators, knights, and crucially officers of the very Praetorian Guard meant to protect him, united by a common goal, survival, which now meant regicide. The ringleader, Cassius Chaerea, had endured months of humiliation. Caligula mocked his voice, questioned his manhood, and gave him degrading passwords. Each insult was another stroke on the death warrant. The plot spread through the ranks of those who had lost family, fortune, or dignity. In a system with no legal way to remove a mad emperor, assassination was the only valve for release. On the day of his death, Caligula was in high spirits, preparing to perform for a lunchtime audience. He was, to the very end, the star of his own destructive drama. Fate intervened in a mundane choice. Leaving the games early for a bath and a snack, he took a shortcut through a secluded, covered passageway, the perfect place for an ambush. Cherea confronted him, asking for the day's password. Caligula, ever the mocker, gave a lewd reply. It was his final joke. Cherea's sword was the punchline. They struck like men possessed, stabbing him over 30 times. Some conspirators, consumed by hatred, even tasted his blood. The god died in a gutter of his own gore. In the sudden silence, the plotters faced a new problem. They had killed the emperor, but not the empire. The machinery of power was now leaderless, and chaos beckoned. Loyalist German bodyguards, hearing the commotion, rushed in and were cut down in a fierce melee. The palace was now a battlefield with no clear chain of command. To secure their coup, the conspirators knew they had to eliminate the entire bloodline. The hunt began for Caligula's wife, Caesonia, and his only child, baby Julia Drusilla. It was a brutal Roman end. Caesonia was stabbed and the infant's head was dashed against a wall. The Julio-Claudian line through this branch was brutally pruned. News of the assassination spread through Rome like a shockwave. The people were stunned. Relief was tempered by a deep-seated fear of what bloody power struggle would come next. As Praetorians looted the palace, one soldier, Gratus, searched for anything of value. Behind a curtain, he heard the sound of frightened breathing. Hiding there was Claudius, Caligula's uncle. The 50-year-old scholar, afflicted with a stutter and limp, was seen as a harmless fool, the family embarrassment. Terrified, Claudius believed he was discovered and would be killed as the last adult male of the family. He prepared to beg for a mercy he did not expect. But the Praetorians saw opportunity in his weakness. A pliable, legitimate heir meant stability and continued power and pay for them. In that moment, a fool became a necessity. Claudius, the man who survived by being overlooked, was hailed as emperor. The conspiracy to restore liberty died instantly, replaced by the raw pragmatism of military power. The Senate's dream of restoring the Republic lasted only hours. The Praetorians' declaration of Claudius made it clear the army, not the senators, now chose Rome's masters. The Senate condemned his memory, ordering his statues torn down and his name chiseled from monuments. But erasing a nightmare from the collective consciousness is never so simple. These symbols tell his story: the boot of a soldier's son, the shattered authority of the gods, the luxury of a horse, the sword of vengeance, and the corrupting power of gold. Historians still grapple with him. The ancient sources are biased, written by his enemies. Modern psychology offers labels, but can never fully diagnose a man across 2 millennia. So, madman or tyrant? The likely, more terrifying truth is both. A potentially damaged mind, placed in a position of absolute power, with no checks, no balances, and no one left to say no. We walk among his ruins today. His story is a timeless, cautionary tale about the corrosive nature of absolute power and the fragility of institutions in the face of a determined, unwell ego. The empire he nearly broke would endure for centuries, but always with the ghost of Caligula lurking, a reminder of how quickly the sublime could descend into the grotesque. That little boot, a symbol of innocence and early promise, sits in museums now, a relic of a path not taken, overshadowed by the monstrous imperial purple it would later wear. His reign poses an eternal question about power. Does it reveal who we truly are, or does it fundamentally change us? Caligula suggests it can do both, with catastrophic results. We are left with that face, handsome, young, and chillingly vacant. In its arrogance, we see the end of the Roman Republic's dream and the dark blueprint of the emperor god. The story of Caligula is a complex puzzle of history, psychology, and power. What's your verdict? Was he a monster born or made? Dive into the debate in the comments below. The saga of the Julio-Claudians is full of drama. To see how the empire survived Caligula, watch our deep dive on his unlikely successor Claudius, the fool who became a formidable emperor. If you want to explore more stories of power gone wrong, from ancient Rome to the modern day, subscribe. Hit the bell so you don't miss our next journey into history's darkest corners. Thank you for watching. We leave you with this thought from history. The price of unchecked power is always paid, not by the tyrant, but by those he rules.